Coming up on 5 Minute News. Biden vows to evacuate all Americans and Afghan helpers. Florida threatens to cut funds for school districts imposing mask mandates. And 1 billion children at extreme risk from climate impact. It's Saturday, August 21. I'm Anthony Davis. President Joe Biden pledged firmly on Friday to bring all Americans home from Afghanistan and all Afghans who aided the war effort too, as officials confirm that U.S. military helicopters were flying into Taliban-held Kabul to scoop up would-be evacuees. But Biden's promises and the limited U.S. helicopter sorties beyond the concrete barriers surrounding the Kabul airport came as thousands more Americans and others seeking to escape the Taliban struggled to get past crushing crowds, Taliban airport checkpoints, and sometimes insurmountable U.S. bureaucracy. Biden's comments delivered at the White House were intended to project purpose and stability at the conclusion of a week during which images from Afghanistan more often suggested chaos, especially at the airport. His commitment to find a way out for Afghan allies vulnerable to Taliban attacks amounted to a potentially vast expansion of Washington's promises, given the tens of thousands of translators and other helpers and their close family members seeking evacuation. Biden is facing continuing criticism as videos and news reports depict pandemonium and occasional violence outside the airport. I made the decision on the timing of the U.S. withdrawal, he said, his tone firm as he declared that it was going to lead to difficult scenes, no matter when. Former President Donald Trump had set it for May in negotiations with the Taliban, but Biden extended it. Thousands of people remain to be evacuated ahead of Biden's August 31st deadline to withdraw most remaining U.S. troops. A defense official said about 5,700 people, including about 250 Americans, were flown out of Kabul aboard 16 C-17 transport planes, guarded by a temporary U.S. military deployment that's building to 6,000 troops. Florida officials are threatening to withhold funds if school districts in 2 counties do not immediately do away with strict mask mandates, as the state continues to battle through high hospitalization rates. School boards received a warning on Friday from the State Board of Education, giving them 48 hours to walk back their decision to require masks for all students, exempting only children that have a doctor's note. The board says the district in 2 areas are violating the Parents' Bill of Rights and a late July executive order by the Republican Governor Ron DeSantis that prompted rules limiting how far districts can go with mask requirements and other COVID-19 measures. DeSantis has pushed for school districts not to mandate masks for all students, ordering the state's health and education departments to come up with rules so that parents can choose whether their children wear them. DeSantis claims, without evidence, that masks can be detrimental for children's development and that younger children simply don't wear masks properly. Statewide, Florida is adding an average of about 20,300 new COVID-19 infections a day, the CDC said. Joe Biden has previously said that federal government funds could be used to make up any shortfall if the governor goes through with holding back school funding, including teachers' pay. Florida, Texas, Alabama, and Georgia healthcare systems are all suffering from acute demand for dwindling intensive care beds to accommodate seriously ill coronavirus patients. Almost half of the world's 2.2 billion children are already at extremely high risk from the impacts of the climate crisis and pollution, according to a report from UNICEF. Nearly every child around the world was at risk from at least one of these impacts today, including heat waves, floods, cyclones, disease, drought, and air pollution, the report said. But 1 billion children live in 33 countries, facing 3 or 4 impacts simultaneously. The countries include India, Nigeria, and the Philippines, and much of sub-Saharan Africa. The report is the first to combine high-resolution maps of climate and environmental impacts with maps of child vulnerability, such as poverty and access to clean water, healthcare, and education. It essentially shows the likelihood of a child's ability to survive climate change, said Nick Rees, one of the report's authors. The report was launched with youth climate activists on the third anniversary of Greta Thunberg's first school strike, which sparked a global movement after a pause in public demonstrations during the coronavirus pandemic. A global climate strike is planned for the 24th of September. Henrietta Fore, UNICEF Executive Director, said, "For the first time, this report gives a complete picture of where and how children are vulnerable to climate change. And that picture is almost unimaginably dire. Virtually no child's life will be unaffected." The report calls for the inclusion of young people in all climate negotiations and decisions, including at the UN COP26 summit in Glasgow in November. Thunberg said, "We are not just victims, we're also leading the fight. But the world is still not treating the climate crisis like an emergency. We are still just talking and greenwashing things, instead of taking real action." You can subscribe to 5 Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5 Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Subscribe, rate and review online at 5minute.news. 5 Minute News is an Evergreen Podcast covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering independent, unbiased and essential world news daily.